if you want it that bad, you can do it. There's nothing that'll stop you except yourself.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that illuminate their journeys, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Jessica Martin, a visionary leader and human strategist dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations break free from societal constraints with a rich background in neuroscience and ancient wisdom. Jessica has transformed countless lives and businesses, guiding them toward authenticity and cautious awareness. Let's dive into Jessica's world and discover the quote that has inspired her path. I'll tell me your name and what you do.
I am Jessica Martin, and my main purpose in life is to break people free from societal constraints. So
Wow.
I have 3 different businesses that focus on different audiences for all of these. So it could be from business, starting a business, or in corporations, or including like the tech and the people and all those things. And then I also have another business that is on spiritual enlightenment. And then I have one that is solely focused just on breaking free from societal constraints and like being like your whole purpose and authentic in life.
Wow. What's your favorite quote? I was asking you what's your favorite quote, and then my internet's just dwindled.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Again, yeah.
I
What was
I, I, s-
that?
I said what's your favorite quote?
Oh, never say can't.
Okay.
And that came from my dad. When we were growing up, my dad, we would, as little kids, we would say things like, "Oh, I can't." And, because we would think it was because of our size or we hadn't ever done it before. And whatever it was, those were like the worst words you could say is can't. Or I don't, anything that was negative about your ability to do anything. And so he would get so intense about it. His eyes would get big and his drill sergeant would come out and he would just, don't you ever say that. You can do anything you want. Don't let anyone ever tell you can't. And it happened so much that we all were like, I can do anything. I can do anything. And then, but it stuck with us, right? Like it stuck with us our whole lives. And like all these things that happen in life, I always hear my dad saying, like, don't you say that. Never say I can't. Never say you can't. And I'm like, I won't. I won't. I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah. Never say I can't. Never say
Yeah.
I can't. Wow. Uh, how's you mentioned earlier on that it's been from childhood. So now that you've grown, you're not adults now. How's that quote influenced you day to day?
So much. It honestly has been like a major impact on my life. Um, I like I'm kind of old now, so we'll reach this in decades. Um, so when I was like in my 20s, it was weird because I was at that time it was a different um, society, and so a lot of times I was being told I couldn't. And I was like, well, why not? And it was either because you're a woman or because you don't have like this education or, whatever it was. And like even to start a business back then, it was way different than it is now. And because, well, obviously there was no internet. So it was a lot to try to even do that. And I remember in my 20s, I just didn't have a real good grasp on life. And so when I would be told I couldn't do something, I didn't understand why, because I was like, no, I can do anything. I'm allowed to do anything. So the 20s were hard, being told a lot that I couldn't do certain things because of experience or a lot of times just different. Like, for example, when I was in college and I was wanting to become an engineer, the all of the students that were female got kicked out of the class and because we were told we couldn't. And I was so upset over that. I actually left college. It was like I was just like I don't want to be associated with a place that is saying that I can't. And so it kind of put me on these different career trajectories, which were great. I'm super happy. But and then, later on in my 20s, when I started to my own business, it was so difficult because everyone was looking at me thinking, you're so young. You don't know how to do this. And I was like, well, you don't understand. Like, my family owns businesses. I know what I'm doing. And so they said, you can't. And so all these things kept happening, and I kept finding ways around them to make them happen. But then I ended up, having children, becoming a mom, and ended up becoming like having all these health problems. And at the same time of having health problems, because in my head, I'm like, never say you can't. I just kept pushing and pushing myself. And so I ended up in this space where I was really lost. I was so sick because I had just kept pushing, trying to prove to everyone else I could that it kind of, I don't think that's what my dad's intent was, but it kind of backfired for a little bit because I was like, I'm going to do everything. And here I was like 24. And it was quite interesting. And so I ended up getting really sick. And at the time I didn't know like what, I just kept knowing I kept getting sick, and I kept going to the doctor trying to overcome it. But what ended up happening is very young, I had gotten cancer.
Oh,
And with and at this point too, I also became a single mom and had gotten a divorce. And so I had these two little babies and had cancer, but I kept having all these other health problems too. And it was so many, like it went on for years. And we ended up finding out I had quite a few autoimmune diseases. And that's what was kind of making everything exasperated more than it probably needed to be, because my body wasn't responding to treatments. And
yeah,
I remember just thinking like, I can do this. I will do this. And it's funny because my children are grown adults now and have their own lives and families. And they've said in their life, because there was like 10 years where it was just me and my two girls, and we were going through all of this. They're like, I don't know how you did it. And now that they're older, they're like, I look at your life and what you have gone through, and that gives me strength when they get told that they can't. Like, one of my daughters wanted to be a mechanic, and that's a hard environment to be in. And she did it. She went to school, became a mechanic, and worked in a shop. And she would think like every day, like, I can do this. Just because I'm the only girl in here does not mean I can't do it. And then my other daughter ended up getting cancer very young too, and it was pretty significant. And I remember just wanting to be there for her. And I was so emotional because she kept saying like, Mom, I'm fine, I'm fine. And I'm like, I've been there. I know you're not fine. And she goes, yeah, but I could never imagine doing it the way you did it. You were still working. You were fighting these autoimmune diseases you didn't know you had, and you had two kids, and that you were had full time. And she's like, I don't know how you did it. And I was like,
yeah,
I don't either. Like, I don't, I was like, this is crazy. I don't know how I did it. But it was so like overwhelmingly emotional to hear that from her. And then I continued to hear that from other people, like a lot of my students or people that come in my classes or get mentoring and coaching from me. They've said like, it's because I hear you saying like, don't you ever say you can't. Everything in life is a choice. You just have to change your mind to make it happen. And
yeah,
so I was having these experiences in life, but then at the same time, like, that's so long ago. I mean, I still have my autoimmune diseases, and you would never know it because I do work full time and I run three companies and I live on a farm. And I got mud off my hands today, so I was
yeah.
able to meet with you properly. I just do everything I want to do. I have the most amazing, auspicious life, and I'm so blessed. And to be able to touch all these other people's lives. It's just amazing to watch these transformations, because there were so many times they said that I was going to die because they just couldn't figure out what was wrong, and they had no idea how to treat me.
Mm,
And obviously they figured it out. But
yeah.
it's just this ongoing journey where, there's some things I have to still say to people like, oh, I actually truly cannot do that. And they're like, why? I'm like, oh, that will trigger my autoimmune disease. And I'm choosing life. So the choice of saying can't
Uh,
is in your power. And it's a very powerful thing. And I think a lot of people miss that, right? Like you have opportunities to say no, because not because of I call them gremlins, but the gremlins in your head that say you can't, because you can do anything you want to. So if you have the desire, you have the passion, you have this goal, this dream, you can achieve it. Especially in today's world, there is nothing any of us can't achieve if we don't want it. And I definitely am a testament to that. And I can tell you thousands of people that have gone and come to me are in the same boat. And it doesn't matter if it's starting a business, if it's honestly learning how to adult, because that's a thing. Um, um, but healing from diseases, overcoming burnout, scaling your business, there's all these different things that people want. And they might be looking for it, but what you always have to overcome is yourself. You are your
Yeah.
worst critic. You are the person that is going to tell yourself you can't. And if you want it that bad, you can do it. There's nothing that'll stop you except yourself. And so it's all about your mindset. I remember one of my surgeries was an emergency surgery, and I heard them like I had flatlined and I was coming in and out while they were reviving me. It was a long experience to explain, but I remember when they finally were. I was leaving my room in the hospital, going into the OR for this surgery that they were flying someone in for, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just know that I would like have this horrible pain in my chest and I would die, and then I would come back. And I remember my dad grabbing my hand when they were wheeling me. And I was so surreal because I was going over like this. You don't think about it, but I'm in this bed that has wheels on it, and there's like lip on the floor. And they put this mold over it so it wasn't a divot, so that the bed could roll over it. But I
Yeah.
was in so much pain, feeling that bump was extreme. And my dad stopped the bed and he grabbed my arm, and I couldn't see anything because I was all blacked out. And he grabbed my arm, and I just remember him saying, "We're all going to be here when you get back. You can do this." And I was like, "Okay, I can do this." And it was like having a near-death experience like that and finding out later how critical I was and that I had died and come back. And then that moment of being like, all I kept thinking about was my dad. And so when I had this near-death experience, which is like most people's, when I came back, like I remember having that moment where you descend back into your body, and there's usually some type of a conversation at that point that happens. And when I was starting to come back, I remembered thinking, like, I can do this. I can do this. I'm here for a purpose. And then it just skyrocketed from there and made my life the way it is. And it was just I always wanted to have my own businesses. I always wanted to have a super healthy lifestyle. And I knew that my purpose from that experience was to help other people in their life. And I had my purpose was to help people get to enlightenment, to get to authenticity and empowered as individual beings so that they could fulfill their purpose in life. And that's why I have so many businesses, because I'm going to show up where I can help you with what you
Yeah.
believe you need help with. And it might not be what you believe. You might need help with something else, but it's a divine path. And once we connect, I'm like, this is not what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. And they're like, yes, that was it. Or sometimes I'm like, yep, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Well done. So it
Yeah.
just varies all over, but it obviously never say can't had a huge impact on my life, and now I'm spreading it to others.
Wow. I'm glad that, I'm having this conversation with you. And yeah, I'm glad you survived all that.
Me too. But it was the funny thing is, going back to the near death experience, truly in that moment, and I'm sure you've heard them, they're all over, and they are very similar stories, but with some uniqueness to each of them. But when I was having that conversation about coming back, I remembered saying, well, do I need to? Because at this point, I've got two little girls who need me. But I was like, well, they have their dad. And I remembered like saying, like, but they have their dad. And I was like, I could stay if I wanted to. And then instead of answering when I was asked, do you want to go back or do you want to stay? I said, well, did I fulfill my purpose? Was that my life? Was this it? If not, I should go back and fulfill what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what that is. And if I'm done, then I'm okay with it. Your will is whatever it should be. And that's when I came back. And at the same time was given like this is your purpose. You're to help other people and and all this information that was given to me. And I was like, I got a lot of work to do. And it gives you this vivacious appetite for life. Like it's so powerful when you understand your purpose because then you can become authentic. You don't worry about what you say. You don't worry about what you're doing, how you appear. You're more concerned about each individual soul and being like, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So let me help you get there. And
Yeah.
let's get you through these roadblocks that you've been programmed from society and break out of that so that you can be the most powerful you. Because that's the real thing that happens, right? And you hear it all the time, people talking about being authentic, people talking about these experiences in their life. Your whole show's about it, right? And all these experiences in life that transform them and it put them on their trajectory. If it was divine, if it was someone, whatever the scenario they had in their life, you all come to that point, and that's when you find peace, and that's when you find kindness, love, acceptance, all those beautiful attributes of life.
Yeah. Well, I know we're a bit short of time, but would you be kind enough to tell us a little bit about your businesses and what your businesses do?
Oh, yes. Right now, my favorite, well, I can't say my favorite one, but they're all my
Ah,
favorites.
it's
I
it's it's
love
like
them.
it's like it's like picking saying this is my favorite child.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um,
uh,
okay, so I have this, I'm Freedom Mystic. I have this program that is called Adulting 101. And
okay.
that's at freedommystic.com. And on the Adulting 101, what we're doing is a program I've been running for, well, actually, almost 2 years now. And it was from demand, people asking for it. Actually, they're all that way. But this one was people that were saying, like, I am failing at adulting. And so every time we go through it, there's these stages of a lot of the problems we have with adulting is and I won't go on a soapbox of it, but as an individual, you have a lack of understanding yourself enough to make the right choices in life to get you where you want to be. And so in Adulting 101, we go through all of that, like your confidence, how you're making decisions, your finances, your career, your dreams, your desires, your relationships, everything is on the table. And so
Wow.
that's why we call it Adulting 101. And that goes for 6 months. And so that's what that whole program's about, and about being able to find your true self and live authentically and powerfully. Then in Bliss Out Mentor, that's a whole big business. It's where we do our business consulting and we go into other companies to help them scale. We also do Ready to Launch, which is teaching people how to create frameworks and structures to make their own unique businesses. And it's not like a lot of these courses you will see other people have, but I actually teach them live. And that way, while
Oh,
we're going through them live, I can curate them to each person and each group and go,
yeah.
yeah, I know that they're telling you to do 15 social media platforms, but that's not going to work for your business. You need to go this way. Because I've been consulting businesses and scaling them for so long and keep up with all of it. I know what they need to do. So there's a variety of things there. And then in Freedom Mystic and Journeying with Jessica, I do a lot of speaking about enlightenment, about human consciousness. And that comes from being an astrologer in Vedic and Western, and also being an herbalist, studying all the Vedic sciences and being a psychic. And so we'll help people again on their journey to enlightenment. And there's just it just all through businesses intertwined that way of becoming the best you, your true self, so that you're empowered to tackle this world and this life.
Wow. I guess the question I should be asking you is not what you do, but what don't you do?
I'm not very good at taking care of some of the animals. My husband has to do that.
Uh, okay.
Um, I, you, you know, I don't think about what I don't do because I just want to be happy. So I just do whatever makes me happy. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not an athletic person. I do
Okay.
yoga and gardening. But if you were like, let's go run a marathon, I would say, no way. Or if you said, let's go build this, I would go, no, no. But I'll bring you food and water and cheer you on. Um, I
Uh,
don't do those kinds of things. So I don't have any ambitions to mold my body into anything. It just is what it is.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was lovely talking with you, and I love your show and these episodes of inspiration you're giving to out to the world. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that means a lot to me, Jessica. If people want to learn more about you and what you do, where can they do that?
I think the easiest place is blissoutholdings.com. It's the parent company of everything I do. So that's where you can find all the ways to connect with me.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.